Today, we're focusing on something really powerful, but often kind of quiet in our lives.
Right,
Lasting personal transformation.
right.
But our mission today, it's really twofold. We're not just looking at the sources on how to change. We're actually giving you a complete guide to mastering the sophisticated and sometimes challenging vocabulary used in these concepts.
Exactly.
Think of it as your shortcut, not just to the knowledge itself, but really to the language of deep, sustained growth.
That's spot on. We've synthesized a range of texts here. They analyze everything from advanced mindset techniques, psychological traps we fall into,
Mm.
the science of breaking those really ingrained routines, and even the overlooked power of small, tiny shifts.
Yeah, the small shifts.
And like you said, we wrap it all up with a dedicated, detailed look at the essential English words and phrases you really need to know to integrate into your vocabulary so you can discuss these ideas, confidently.
So the journey itself, this transformation, according to our sources, it usually doesn't start with some big announcement. More often, it's a quiet, internal kind of reckoning.
Mm-hmm.
It's that subtle, persistent question maybe popping up when you look around at your life. Is this really the life I want to keep living?
And what's fascinating there is the texture of that thought. It's rarely, some big Hollywood crisis moment.
Right. No drama.
No, not usually. As one source put it, it's often soft, almost like a whisper in the back of your mind. But its impact, profound. It signals this innate understanding, I think, of the value of deep, slow change.
Slow change.
Yeah, the kind that fundamentally restructures who you are. And that makes it infinitely more resilient, much more lasting than any quick, unsustainable fix.
Okay, so that's our structure for this deep dive. We'll dissect the most compelling ideas about escaping stagnation, getting unstuck, and then crucially, we teach you the key English words, the concepts drawn right from this material,
That's the plan.
ensuring you walk away not just, motivated, but articulate too, able to use the language. Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. If this desire for change is pretty universal, why do people, myself included sometimes, stay stuck for years, just paralyzed in the same frustrating loop?
Yeah, it's a big question.
Our sources suggest the answer lies in, two powerful, interconnected mental traps that kind of keep people orbiting the same problems, never really committing to a solid direction.
Right. And the first trap is what the sources call fear in disguise. It's this psychological mechanism where fear doesn't show up as obvious panic or anxiety. Instead, it shows up as quiet, rationalized comfort. It sounds like that very dangerous thought. It's fine, I can live with this.
It's fine. And that thought, that sort of passive acceptance of a life that's just
Yeah.
fine, it's dangerous because it sounds so reasonable, right?
Exactly. It's not some dramatic failure. It's a subtle complacency. And it masks this genuine, deep-seated fear of disruption, of shaking things up.
The sources really spend time differentiating that from true contentment, too. Like, contentment is active, it's joyful, this fine state. It's more passive, almost numbing.
And that underlying fear, well, it takes several common forms. There's the obvious fear of failure, sure.
Yeah.
The fear of judgment from others, what will people think?
Yeah.
And just that basic, maybe evolutionary fear of the unknown that comes with changing any major path in life. But the sources highlight one particularly insidious and surprising form of fear, the fear of success.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting, because I think a lot of people don't recognize this in themselves. We heard this anecdote, didn't we, about this student who desperately wanted an English-speaking job.
Yeah, that was a powerful one.
She had the skills, she practiced constantly, her grammar was amazing,
Mhm.
but she just never applied.
Right. And when she finally admitted the real reason, it wasn't the fear of rejection, which she might expect. It was the fear of getting the job. She actually said, if I get it, I'll have to speak English every single day, all day long. What if I succeed at first and then realize I can't keep it up? What if I fail publicly after everyone's congratulated me?
Wow. So she feared actually achieving the goal because that would immediately raise the stakes.
Precisely. Success brings higher expectations, new demands, and the risk of being exposed as, inadequate.
Like imposter syndrome, basically.
Very much so. She was using procrastination, inaction, as a kind of shield against that potential high-level vulnerability. It felt safer not to succeed.
That's subtle but powerful.
And the sources give another example, maybe more corporate. Think of the middle manager who won't delegate meaningful tasks, even though they're totally overworked.
Okay.
Logically, delegating frees them up, maybe for advancement. But the manager fears, perhaps subconsciously, that if their team does those tasks too well, then the manager becomes less essential, less valuable, potentially replaceable.
Ah, so that's fear of success again. Stopping forward progress, that professional momentum we'll talk about later.
Exactly. That distinction, fearing the starting line versus fearing the maintenance after the finish line, that's crucial for spotting fear when it's truly in disguise.
Okay, that makes sense.
Which leads us right into trap two, the simple comfort of routine, living on autopilot.
Right. The daily grind.
The sources spend quite a bit of time detailing let's call it the emotional geography of this state,
Yeah.
describing that pervasive feeling of just existing.
Yeah, the cycle.
Yeah.
Wake up, immediately check the phone,
Mm-hmm.
rush through work, get home, maybe binge watch some shows until you're exhausted, sleep, repeat.
And that cycle traps you in what the sources call the weird middle
The
zone.
weird middle zone. I like that.
Yeah. It's that place where nothing's objectively wrong. You have shelter, food, stability, the basics are covered. But nothing feels particularly inspiring or joyful or exciting either.
You're just coasting,
Yeah.
trading potential for ease.
And that's more psychologically costly than it seems. If you analyze the sources, they suggest this weird middle zone often breeds a kind of existential boredom.
Existential boredom.
It's not just being bored because you have nothing to do. It's that deep corrosive feeling that you're living beneath your potential. And that sense of unlived life just slowly drains your energy.
Okay, so how do the sources illustrate this?
They use a really great analogy. Imagine you're walking through a huge forest. There's a small, easy path already beaten down by countless others before you. That's your existing routine.
Right, the familiar way.
It offers maximum cognitive ease, minimum risk. It might not actually lead where you want to go, but it feels infinitely simpler than the exhausting effort of trying to cut your own new trail through the dense undergrowth.
That's a powerful image.
And what's fascinating here is how this plays out physically, not just in the forest metaphor, but in your brain. Every time you repeat that easy path, checking the phone first thing, defaulting to a negative thought, avoiding that tricky English conversation, you deepen the psychological footprint.
Like digging a rut deeper and deeper.
Exactly. The longer you walk that path, the more grooved the habit becomes, and the harder it feels to consciously step off it.
So inertia isn't just laziness. It's
Yeah.
a real structural barrier.
Absolutely. It takes genuine conscious effort and, frankly, courage, not just motivation, to pause that automatic pilot, look around at the forest and say, okay, maybe I need to take a different turn, even if that path isn't clear yet. And that moment of courage, pausing and recognizing the rut, it leads perfectly into the solution offered in the sources. The focus shouldn't be on some massive, terrifying leap.
Right.
The core requirement is much simpler. It's just a shift.
Yeah, shift. That word feels so much lighter, doesn't it?
Mhm.
More achievable than like revolution.
Totally.
When we talk about life transformation, the popular image is, quit the job, move across the world, become this entirely new, flawless person overnight.
Right, the Hollywood version again.
Yeah. And the sources completely reject that all or nothing thinking.
The central and I think liberating idea here is the 1% rule. This is the realization that lasting change doesn't need a total overhaul. If you can just focus on improving one small thing by just 1% each day, well, you engage the power of compound interest, but applied to human behavior.
Okay, let's break down the math on that for a sec, because the sources really highlight this specific nuance. It's easy to think, oh, I need to be 100% better right now.
Right, impossible pressure.
Exactly. But if you improve by just 1% every single day for a year,
Yeah.
you don't just end up 365% better
Yeah.
because of the compounding. You end up 37 times better.
37 times.
Yeah.
It's exponential growth, but the daily effort feels almost negligible.
Tiny. Yeah. And this really helps counter that anxiety we talked about in part one, the stuff that paralyzes us. You shift from the overwhelming question, how do I become fluent in English, which is huge, to the manageable question, what is the 1% step I can take right now, today, to move towards fluency?
And the sources gave some great, really granular examples of these small shifts. One common one, a small win, is simply making your bed every morning.
Sounds trivial, I know, but
And it's not. It's a commitment kept. It's successfully completing the very first task of the day. It sets a tone.
and that tiny win, it's critical because it creates this psychological chain reaction. It starts the momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. The sources show how people often move from just making the bed to maybe adding a 10-minute walk, then perhaps listening to 5 minutes of, say, a French or Spanish lesson, or maybe journaling for 5 minutes in their target language.
Tiny, manageable steps, they build self-efficacy, that feeling of, I can do this.
Exactly. And think about how this applies directly to you, the learner listening right now. Your 1% shift might be switching your streaming service to English subtitles, just for the first 10 minutes of whatever you watch.
Or maybe committing to saying hello, good morning, and asking just one small question to a colleague in English, even if it feels terrifying.
Or it could be ensuring you listen to this deep dive daily. Not just once, but consistently making it part of your routine. That's a 1% shift.
That consistency piece is key.
It is. And it's reinforced by one of the most beautiful analogies in the source material, the water metaphor.
Ah, yes, the water and the rock.
Think about water slowly cutting through the hardest rock, carving out massive canyons like the Grand Canyon. How does it do it? Not through brute force or power or intensity.
Right.
It does it through pure, relentless persistence, one drop at a time, constantly repeated over immense stretches of time.
The lesson there is profound, isn't it? We often confuse effort with persistence. We think we need one huge, massive effort, like one giant waterfall to smash the obstacle.
Yeah, the heroic effort model.
But the sources suggest it's the sustained, gentle, daily drop of water that's the true force of transformation. It's consistency that wins, not intensity.
And managing that intensity is critical. Focusing on these tiny shifts fundamentally prevents that feeling of being overwhelmed.
Yeah, I have to change everything right now
Right.
feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which inevitably leads to doing nothing. Instead, you just say, let me just keep this one small promise to myself today.
And when you keep those small promises, walk 10 minutes, listen to 5 minutes of this deep dive, make the bed you build something incredibly valuable internally.
What's that?
Trust. Self-trust. That belief in yourself is the engine. It drives greater growth, and eventually that sustained momentum lets you finally step off that old rutted path we talked about.
Okay, so once you've got that momentum started, the next crucial piece highlighted in the sources is mastering your mind's filtering system. We need to talk about something incredibly powerful that most people, frankly, overlook.
Okay, I'm listening.
The reticular activating system, the RAS.
RAS. Okay, sounds a bit technical. What does it mean in, practical terms?
Basically, your brain has a filter.
Yeah.
And that filter notices what you consciously or sometimes unconsciously train it to notice.
Right, like the classic example they gave.
Yeah.
The red car.
Exactly. You decide you want to buy a specific model of red car, and suddenly, bam, you see that exact car everywhere.
They were always there, though.
They were always there, but your RAS wasn't prioritizing them. It wasn't filtering for red cars until you gave it that deliberate instruction. Look for red cars.
Okay, so how does this apply to transformation or, say, learning English?
Directly. If your dominant internal dialogue, the sentence you keep repeating in your head is, I'm terrible at English, I always make mistakes, well, guess what? Your brain will diligently filter for proof of that belief,
Finding every stumble, every hesitation.
confirming that negative self-image. But if you intentionally shift that sentence, if you use the language of growth and say, okay, I am learning, I am getting better. Hey, I successfully used 3 new words today.
Your brain starts looking for that proof instead.
Immediately, it switches allegiance, it starts filtering for moments of progress, little bits of proof of competence, those small wins. And this is precisely why affirmations aren't some mystical thing.
They're practical tools.
Exactly. They are instructions you give your RAS to determine what you prioritize seeing and what you filter out.
Okay, this connects directly to a huge barrier for learners, especially language learners, the perfection trap.
Oh, absolutely.
Our sources had that anecdote about the student who was technically brilliant, perfect grammar scores, huge vocabulary, but completely silent in class.
Right. She was waiting. When they asked her why she never spoke, her explanation was, I'm waiting until I can say it perfectly.
Mentally rehearsing, analyzing, self-editing, postponing all actual speaking.
Yep. And this resonates so deeply with learners, doesn't it? We wait for the perfect vocabulary word, the perfect accent, the perfect moment, the perfect plan. We put off action until we feel totally ready, totally flawless.
Which never happens.
Never. The crucial insight from the sources is that perfect moment never arrives because learning is inherently, fundamentally messy. Confidence isn't something you need before you act.
It's a result of acting.
Exactly. Confidence is a result of action. The advice given to that student was so simple but profound. Start now, start messy.
That messy.
She started with one small, imperfect, maybe grammatically questionable sentence. The next day, another. Her confidence grew, not because she waited for some abstract perfection, but because she earned it one tiny, messy step at a time.
So the mantra is key here.
The mantra for breaking the perfection trap is foundational. Start ugly, stay consistent.
Start ugly, stay consistent.
Yeah,
I like that.
okay.
Okay, so once you embrace consistency, the 1% messy shift, what's the final piece?
The final piece of the puzzle is addressing your environment. The sources use another really strong analogy here, changing the soil.
Changing the soil. Okay.
The analogy is profoundly simple. You could be the most dedicated gardener, right? You have the perfect seed, you give it sunlight, you give it water. But if the soil it's planted in is contaminated, if it's heavy concrete or toxic waste, that seed's growth will be stunted or maybe impossible.
And the soil in our life.
Our environment, the context we're rooted in. We need to ask ourselves, am I constantly surrounded by chaotic noise? By social media feeds that just make me feel inadequate? By people, maybe even well-meaning ones, who constantly negate my efforts? By too much pressure?
Right. Is my environment helping or hindering?
Precisely. And the sources gave very specific, actionable steps for, clearing the weeds and changing the soil. It might not be quitting social media entirely, but maybe strategically managing the input.
Like what?
Like taking a dedicated, say, 1-week digital fast from non-essential apps. Instagram, YouTube, whatever drains you.
Did people find that helpful?
The reported results were striking. People felt their minds were lighter, calmer. They had more mental bandwidth to think deeply about their own goals rather than constantly consuming the curated highlights of everyone else's life.
That makes sense. Another example was turning off notifications, right?
Yeah, someone turned off all notifications except calls and texts for a whole month, just reclaiming control over their focus, deciding when they would engage, not letting the phone dictate it.
And the environment isn't just digital, it's physical too.
Absolutely. Is your learning space or workspace cluttered? Clutter, according to the sources, creates visual and cognitive stress. It makes it harder for the mind to focus and maintain that persistence we talked about.
So changing the soil means curating your physical space too.
It means curating a physical and digital space that actively supports the person you're trying to become. It requires a kind of audit.
An audit.
Yeah, you need to ask, what am I planting my efforts into? Am I surrounding myself with people and content that inspire growth, that offer positivity? If not, you have to deliberately change the soil. Clear out the weeds, make space for intellectual and emotional sunlight, because ultimately your potential is fundamentally dependent on where you choose to be rooted.
Wow, okay. We've covered a huge amount today. From those deep grooves of routine, the ruts, to the liberating power of just 1% effort. But now we turn to the most direct, practical goal of this deep dive for you, the learner.
That's right. Because sometimes the most impactful transformation comes simply from getting the right words, the right vocabulary to articulate the complex concepts you might already understand intuitively.
Exactly. We want to make sure you can confidently use the key vocabulary we've been using throughout this whole discussion.
So we're going to break down 10 essential words and phrases.
And for each one, we'll repeat the word slowly, a couple of times. We'll spell it out letter by letter. We'll explain its meaning clearly, and then give you an example sentence using it.
And we'll build in little pauses, implied by the back and forth, to give your brain time to process and really internalize this new information. Ready?
Let's do it. The first word we use quite a bit, meaning to think carefully or deeply about something, is reflect.
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 R-E-F-L-E-C-T.
So reflect means to think carefully or deeply, often about past events, decisions, or maybe your current life choices. It's like an inward mental action.
For example, after the test, I took some time to reflect on what specific strategies I could use to do better next time.
Pause. Okay, our second word. This one's short, very conversational, and super useful for describing atmosphere or mood. It's vibe.
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 V-I-B.
Vibe. It's the feeling or the mood of a place or a person or even just a moment. It's pretty informal, but a really common noun to describe atmosphere.
For example, this cafe has a really calm, productive vibe, which makes it a perfect place for studying.
Pause. All right, number 3. This is the compound phrase we use when talking about that trap of routine, especially non-productive leisure time. Binge watch.
Binge watch.
Binge watch.
B-I-N-G-E. That's binge. Then W-A-T-C-H, watch. Binge watch.
And binge watch means to watch a whole lot of TV episodes or videos or movies, one after the other, usually over a long time in one sitting.
For example, I spent the entire holiday weekend trying to binge watch a new historical series, but honestly, I need to stop that habit.
Pause. Okay, next up. The phrase we discuss when identifying those psychological traps.
In disguise.
In disguise.
Or disguise.
I-N-N. Then D-I-S-G-U-I-S-E, disguise. In disguise. In disguise describes something that's hidden behind another appearance. Its true nature is masked or concealed. We often use it for feelings or intentions.
For example, his sudden need to control everything was actually insecurity in disguise.
Pause. Moving on. From the analogy of the forest path, we have the word trail.
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 A trail is a path or direction, usually for walking, especially out in nature. But, like we used it, metaphorically, for a specific sequence of actions, habits, or even life choices.
For example, she decided not to follow the career trail set by her parents. She had to create her own path.
Pause. All right, our sixth word. This one is essential for actively training your brain's filter, your RAS, and mastering your focus. Affirmations.
Affirmation.
Affirmations.
Affirmations.
Affirmations are positive phrases or sentences you say to yourself regularly. The idea is to build belief, reinforce your focus, and increase confidence in your abilities and potential.
For example, he found that using simple daily affirmations like, "My practice is enough," helped him stay focused on his goals.
Thoughts. Okay, next. The word we use quite a bit when comparing complex ideas, like habit formation, to simpler things like water or a path. Analogy.
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 An analogy is basically a comparison between two different things that helps explain a complex idea or an abstract concept by relating it to something simpler or more known or more concrete.
For example, the professor used the analogy of a marathon runner to describe the importance of pacing yourself during the exam.
Pause. Good one. Okay, the next word describes that quality of the water cutting through rock. It's the opposite of like explosive intensity. Persistence.
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 T-E-N-C-E.
Persistence is the act of continuing firmly, maybe even stubbornly, to try to do something, especially when things get difficult or you face opposition. Just keeping going.
For example, her success in learning Mandarin didn't come from talent alone. It came from relentless persistence over 5 years.
Pause. Word number 9. This is the result you get from applying that consistent 1% shift. Momentum.
Momentum.
Momentum. M-O-M-E-N-T-U-M.
Momentum is that energy or force that keeps something going, or even increasing once it's actually started. It's kind of like the inertia of positive action.
For example, after finally getting back into a study routine, he used that initial momentum to tackle more complex material.
Excellent. And finally, the word we used when talking about controlling your inputs, managing the soil of your life, surround.
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 S-U-R-R-O-U-N-D.
To surround literally means to be all around something. But we use it figuratively, like we did, to talk about the people, the environments, or the energy that we allow into our daily experience.
For example, it is absolutely crucial for your mental health and growth to surround yourself with people who believe in your potential.
Pause. Okay, that was a really powerful set of vocabulary. Essential words for discussing personal development, setting goals, mastering your mindset. Take a moment, really let those definitions sink in, and maybe practice using them in your head. Tag outro.
So we've really navigated the forest today, haven't we? Identify those deep grooves of habit, face the fear that's often in disguise, and learned that the solution probably lies not in some massive leap,
Right.
but in that steady, persistent 1% shift.
Yeah, the core message really stays consistent. You don't need to overhaul everything at once. You just need to focus on the smallest, most achievable, most real step you can actually take today, just to build that initial momentum.
Whether that means maybe saying one imperfect sentence using one of your new words today, or maybe taking just 2 minutes right now to reflect on the structure of your current routine, let it be small, but let it be consistent.
Okay, so here's your call to action then, your final assignment for this deep dive. Take one of the words you just learned, maybe analogy, maybe persistence, maybe vibe, and commit to actively using it today.
Yeah, use it in a conversation, send it in a text message, write it in your journal. Just make that language fully yours.
On the word.
Exactly. And building on that idea of environment and consistency, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought for your day. If your mind is always listening, constantly seeking proof of who you are and what you're capable of, what sentence will you allow it to hear about yourself today?
Will you allow it to keep hearing, oh, I struggle with this vocabulary, or will you deliberately change the focus, maybe using a powerful affirmation, and allow it to hear, I am learning, I am becoming fluent, I am building momentum.
Use the language of growth. Keep learning, keep growing, and remember that mantra. Start ugly, but stay consistent.
Until next time on The Deep Dive.